like to welcome you to the Baseline to Baseline podcast/show.
It's steps to success rather than failures.
But it seems like right now it's just not working.
You've never seen a center like him who could do the amount of things that he can.
So I think the Celtics probably are the ones to beat if they all stay healthy. Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Baseline to Baseline with Alistair Albert. I am, of course, Alistair Albert, and we're bringing the Caribbean to the world via the NBA. Like I like to say, it's my slogan for the show, and it is what it is. We're bringing the Caribbean to the world via the NBA, but today specifically, we're going to be bringing St. Lucia to the world via the NBA. Happy 45th independence anniversary to the island of St. Lucia. Of course, back home, it's a holiday. Everyone's enjoying a little day where, they get to kind of relax, watch the festivities on television, the road torch relay that's going on, all of the parades and the police troops and everyone doing their celebrations on the parks and everywhere else, and of course people just coming together and remember such an important time in our St. Lucian history. So happy day to St. Lucia, happy birthday to St. Lucia, 45th anniversary of our independence from the UK. All right, so with that in mind, and being St. Lucia is where I'm from, this is going to be a little bit of a St. Lucian inspired episode today. So it's going to feature a St. Lucian guest, which is an interview that I've done previously, and I'm actually bringing it back. I never got a chance to post it, but it's still so relevant today because of, just some of the current things going on with a specific team in the NBA. So we're going to be looking specifically at the Boston Celtics and an interview that I had with Miguel Fevrier, or as I like to call him, Butu, affectionately known in St. Lucia as Butu. Miguel, the mighty Butu Fevrier, speaking about his favorite team. He's a fan of the Boston Celtics, and we spoke last year about the Boston Celtics and some of the concerns that we had about the team. And a lot of these concerns have kind of remained, to tell you the honest truth. Of course, the Boston Celtics are first in the NBA right now with the record that they have 43-12, I believe. 43-12, yes, just checking my notes. And they're first in the NBA and they're doing really well, as you'd expect with a team with the best record. But, there's still a few things in there that kind of maybe bring a bit of cause for pause when you think about what's going to happen now that the post-All-Star break is here. And we're now going towards the playoffs where, this is where everything counts. So we're going to be looking at the Boston Celtics, going to learn a bit about Miguel, how his fandom for the Boston Celtics started, a little bit of his role where he was the public relations officer for the St. Lucian Basketball Federation at one point, just how he got into basketball and sports like he did. We're going to speak a little bit about a comparison that he made in the first segment. I'm laughing here because, it was really funny at the time to a Boston Celtics player. And just kind of talk about, like we said, some of the inconsistencies and some of the concerns that we had about the Boston Celtics last season, which actually have still translated to this season. So it's going to be really fun. It's going to be a really fun interview that I'm going to be bringing back online for this purpose. There's one thing I would like to say. Of course, the interview was held in St. Lucia, being done remotely at the lovely Jade Mountain Hotel at Anshasne. Lovely place, lovely venue. We really want to thank Miss Caroline Trebetskoy, Trevor, I can't remember his surname, to be quite honest with you, Trevor, who kind of helped me put this together, with Miss Ermine Joseph, who was the duty manager at the time, and of course, Mr. Chef Orlando, who's based down in Soufrière, who kind of put everything in touch for me to be able to have this interview done at the venue that I did. So this first section coming right now is the interview that kind of introduces Miguel to the crowd, talking about his love for basketball and tennis, and also how he kind of got into fandom of the Boston Celtics. And of course, after the interview is complete, we're going to go on into our Beatties of the Week as usual. and also the footnote section. I have a lovely little shooter to not pay tribute to, but it kind of comes into the whole conversation about St. Lucia as well and why it was created for me. So it's going to be St. Lucian inspired, like I said, for this episode. So let's get straight on into this interview. Part one, section one, with Miguel the Mighty Butu Fevrier.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Insights Baseline with Albert. And today I'm really happy to have one of my friends, Miguel Fevrier, is a journalist. Really good side of things, What was it, Miguel? Was it HTS and then NBC Prime?
It was actually Choice TV.
Choice,
that's where
okay.
I started. Then
Right.
HTS, then NBC Prime.
Right. So he's been around the block in terms of the media stuff and journalism. So I'll probably be in on him a little in terms of directing this call. But no, this is my show, as they say in St. Lucia. So we'll see how it goes. But of course, it's really good to have someone in kind of understands what it is to be factual and trying to say things in an objective way. Although I'm gonna get into a little fandom as a Celtics fan, and I know objectivity might get blown out of the window there a little bit. So yeah, tell us a little more about you, Miguel. Like you said, we done a little bit of journalism. We are all, Sumerians. We're both Sumerians back from SMC and Mary's College, for those who don't know. And yes, just tell us a little about you, how you got into basketball.
Okay, yeah. Boy, Alistair, thank you for having me though, Alistair. It's really good. It's good to see you. I haven't seen you since you've been here in St. Lucia, and
Yeah.
I really hoped to be down there in the beautiful town of Soufrière with you, but for now, because I had prior engagements, which I really have to attend to this afternoon, which we may mention later, I have to use the backgrounds for now of the beautiful Peasaws, the Twin Peaks, which St. Lucia is known for. Yes, I did attend the St. Mary's College, and you were 3 years behind me, I believe. I was class of 99, you were class of 02. Yeah, so I got into basketball actually way before St. Mary's. They're two of my favorite sports. My love of tennis. My cousin was actually a national and Davis Cup player, Jonathan Jean-Baptiste, and I loved tennis. And when Coca-Cola tournaments, the ITF Coca-Cola tournament used to be at the Sandals Le Toc, which is formerly Cunard Le Toc Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And but basketball as well. My cousin's husband, the late Kenneth Rigler King, which the court in the Gardens is named after. My cousin's husband, Uncle K, he was a national coach, and I used to spend a lot of time in the CDC at that during summers while my grandmother and my dad was at work. I'd spend at them, and we go into basketball. My cousin was a Laker fan. I was obviously a Boston fan. My cousin Casey Kareem King, one of Entrepreneur's finer basketball players back in my time. And yes, we got to St. Mary's College, and I wasn't the most skilled, and I was far from skilled in that respect. I mean, when you get to an all-boys school, you compete in all sporting disciplines, and you have guys who are really talented. Actually, in my year, we had St. Lucia's first Division I NCAA player named Jimmy Inglis.
That's right.
Big 20, if you remember.
I remember.
Yeah, and funny enough, the junior tournament was actually only introduced when I got into Form 2. So that would be for the 95-96 season. And before that, there was only one team. There was a senior team. And in a population of 600 students, you're looking at more than 50% of the boys trying out for the basketball team. And you remember how that
competitive.
Was. Junior
Absolutely.
And senior, very competitive.
Mm-hmm.
And not making the team as much as it would break your heart, if you're mature enough to understand that, listen, you're competing among the best of the best, and that's why St. Mary's College dominated basketball. And other sporting disciplines, volleyball, football, table tennis as well, another sport I was very proficient in during through the 80s and 90s and stuff. So, but I've always been a Boston Celtics fan, and it was quite by accident, or inadvertent, I would say, because the first basketball related anything that I got as a child was a Boston Celtics t-shirt. I was about
started back then
8 years old. Yeah,
right.
It was a green shirt with Boston, and I'm not to give away my age. Well, I'm over 40. I'm 40 until 41 this year. So I didn't
80s. Think so, You over 40 already, boy?
I get the 25, 26 a lot, but it's probably because of the height. I'm 5'3", by the way, those of you wondering. 5'3", play basketball. So yeah, I was about 7 or 8 thereabout. And when my dad's boss had got me the shirt, so the Boston Celtics t-shirt, and that was it. But then, like a lot of us in the 90s, I was a Michael Jordan fan throughout. So we supported the Bulls throughout, but that was when the 90s hit and the Celtics were no longer relevant. But even there was this basketball game from esports. It was Jordan versus Bird, and the NBA playoffs. I played with Larry Bird. I love shooting threes. You understand? You try to relate it to yourself as a shot player. You understand your limitations, that you're not going to be the one dunking and doing all those highlight moves above the rim moves and everything. So you aspire to be a shooter. Or to handle the ball and or pass or be a playmaker. So I think I was more related to Larry Bird, although the height difference is very huge. But there we go. That came when basketball.
When this recording comes out, everyone is going to say Butu say he related himself to basketball, to Larry Bird. That's what everybody going to say. Now I just made a little reference there that was kind of caught in. I mentioned Butu, for those who are probably looking from overseas, what Butu means, it's a little slang word that we use back here in St. Lucia, kind of talk about someone's diminutive size, very short, 5'3", as he mentioned. And I remember Miguel on the court, and yeah, he was a pest. He was kind of like Jose Alvarado, just kind of staying around looking for guys and kind of stealing the ball from them because you thought, and in dribbling kind of created a little issue because he had to
love defense.
Come down to you as well. Yeah.
So I love playing defense. I think defense, I as cliche as it sounds, that defense wins championships, but I pride myself in being contributing on the court in that respect, being able to trouble the handler. I box out. And sometimes the guys, funny enough, for a second, I was just recently playing on our home court, the Gardens. I also play for the BFTF. We were the 2019 champions of the National League.
BFTF,
during
yes.
COVID, yeah, Basketball for the Future. That's the Gardens. The
right,
hardest court you'll ever get, yeah?
That is, it's true.
Yeah, and because of COVID, of course, there was no tournament, but we lost in the quarterfinal this year to Bonte, who we beat in the semifinals. But we're back on the court, we're training, we're looking to hope for the 2024 season. There should be another tournament also this year to try another tournament, a Super Six or something like that, which we may get into. But I pride myself on playing defense. I will box out and I will get, because the average person of the average height, when they box now, they tend to get low and stick probably their butt out. I do it, and the guys, the opponents will say to me, "But that's illegal." I said, "No, I'm doing the same thing you're
doing the same thing.
It's effective.
Exactly.
Just lower to the ground. It affects a lower part of the body. But yeah, you were saying Butu, yeah, does mean short, and that's our slang here in St. Lucia.
Yeah, and it was really good to kind of you kind of harken back to Jimmy, that guy, big 20. I can't remember how tall he was. Probably about 6'5", 6'6" himself.
Yeah, but Jimmy's 6'7" now.
6'7", yeah. So and I remember him. I remember him from primary school, St. Aloysius RC Boys School.
RC, yeah.
He was a little bit. I was really intimidated by him then, and when he got to college, I got even more intimidated as his.
I was in Anglican, and we were intimidated by him.
Yeah, he was something else, and he went on to Rutgers University, as you mentioned, first Division 1 player.
And his brother also played D1, eh?
Gabriel, yes. What school did he play for? I can't remember.
I'm trying to remember where Gabriel played for. I honestly can't remember. And funny enough, we play ball almost every Saturday at the end of.
Right. Also, so these guys are back on Ireland.
Jimmy's in and out. Gabriel's here most times. He has summer camps. He has basketball camps.
Right.
So he does school. He does school programs as well.
Awesome. That's really lovely to hear. And your little background, talking about being compared to Larry Bird, all that sort of stuff. That's really good. But yeah, it's really good to kind of get that humbling, start off. You get a Boston Celtics. That's kind of like your thing. That becomes your team. I remember as well, starting off with basketball. For me, it was always because I didn't get any paraphernalia or any athletic gear. But my first foray into basketball was seeing Michael Jordan dominate in the 90s, and it just stuck from the same way. I didn't really have any team allegiance per se. It was all about Jordan, and of course the shoes. Everybody talks about the shoes, and we'll come to that in a little bit because we're a little bit of a sneakerhead as I am. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that. But what I'll do here, Butu, I'll stop here for just a little bit of and I really thank Mountain at Ancha who has given me the opportunity to be at this lovely location, which is mirroring Butu's background image. But I'm actually at the live spot, watching the majestic Peters coming out to see, and it's a lovely tourist site. It's one of the most I'll say expensive, but if you're going to be there and you're going to spend the money, pay for what you get for at Jade Mountain, and it's absolutely exquisite staff. I'm a stand with Joseph, Trevor, and Miss Caroline Chibesco, who director of this hotel.
Shout out to Miss Chibesco. Shout out to them. They've really done a lot for St. Lucia as well.
They have, absolutely have. They built a lovely place here. Everyone is really lovely, really lovely. Whoever people are really excited to come to, and it's really lovely to be here again and taking it whilst I'm on island. I just want to give them a quick shout out whilst we take a break, and we'll get on into the real meat of the where we talk about the NBA season and of course Butu's team, the Boston Celtics. What do you think his chances are for that? So stay right on.
All right, so that was section one, part one of that interview with Miguel. Of course, you started to see some of the things that we started to discuss about him, specifically his journalistic background, and me wanting to, kind of go into that and hopefully leaning on some of the objectivity that you'd expect from a journalist in the coming talks that we're going to have about the Boston Celtics. Of course, he mentioned his love for the Boston Celtics, how that kind of came about. We spoke a little bit about some St. Lucian basketball players who kind of made St. Lucia proud back in the day, and some of what they're doing now. And yeah, his Larry Bird comparison, you caught that, right? Mr. Man who's 5'3", talking about, Larry Bird, he compared himself to Larry Bird, which was really funny at the time, but I could understand what he's talking about, being a very shorter player, not being able to do very much athletically. He had to rely on the jump shooting, and, Larry Bird being one of the best shooters in Boston Celtics history was why he made that comparison. But it was still funny. Butu said he likened himself to Larry Bird. So that was really funny. So section 2 is coming up, and we really started to talk about the Boston Celtics and, just some of the struggles and some of the issues that we had. So I have a few notes here. We go into some of those issues, what we thought about the Celtics, what we think they need. Miguel mentioned really clearly that, he thinks he needs a defensive center on that team, someone who could back up or fortify the front court for them. And we touch a little bit of that. And that's something that was addressed this offseason with Kristaps Porzingis being acquired to the Boston Celtics. There was all this talk about Jaylen Brown being traded and the rumors that came about that. And, Miguel was very direct and imploring the team to keep them together. Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan had bumps and bruises to go to before they became championship caliber, and he implored the Boston Celtics to do the same, keep them together. He believes that's the new age of Mike and Scottie. We spoke about, just starting to talk about some of the predictions that we were going to have for that season. But of course, like I like to mention again, the audio and everything was a little bit shaky, so we have the subtitles to try to help there. But I hope you're enjoying the interview that Miguel kind of gave me on this day. So we're on into section 2, where Miguel speaks a little bit about these issues that I just mentioned, and we'll head straight off into it.
All right, everyone, welcome back for joining us here again at Baseline to Baseline with Alistair Albert. I'm here live at the down in Soufriere. So it's right at the back. This is not a screensaver. It's actually real. If I didn't want to mess up the short of the camera, the rooms here are lovely.
Sulphur City.
Sulphur City. Three walls in that room are just exposed to the and people have this lovely as soon as they wake up, which is remarkable. Like I said, the staff here are fantastic. Shout out to everyone who's kind of helped me kind of this point to kind of do coding. And just want to, of course, remind everyone to have Miguel Fabry here join us. Soufriere inspired background backdrop.
Only for now, only for now.
Only
When
for
we get
now,
into the
only for
meat of
now.
the matters, you know I'm going to represent.
That's right. That's right. And you just mentioned a little bit to us a while ago that in addition to journalistic background, also were a PRO for the St. Louis Basketball Federation.
Yes, I served for about 3, 4 years as the PR of the St. Lucia Basketball Federation.
Right.
We oversaw two major tournaments. It's funny that the commercial league is actually more of a flagship tournament than the National League
The
because we get
national.
so much more support. Everyone wants to come support their place of work.
Mhm.
So but then our president and our general secretary, that's Mr. Leslie Collymore and Ms. Velica Augustine, only just this year was selected to serve on the executive of the Caribbean Basketball Federation.
Right.
Leslie will be the CBC's first vice president, and Vel Shabs, as we call her, is the new secretary.
Affectionately.
Affectionately, very affectionately, is the new secretary. So yeah, so I think basketball for a few years we've been trying to, a number of years actually, trying to reintroduce hoops at the grassroots level. And I
Right.
think that it's starting. We've seen a number of schools with their own programs, and the quality of sports that of basketball we've seen, it's starting to improve. There was a lull at one point, back in the day when you and I went, the complex was packed,
Mhm.
the VG Sports complex, and there was no space. There was no seating space. You'd have to stand along the fence.
That's
And
right.
after a few years, man, you'd see the place was empty. And
Mhm.
you're starting to see the crowd starting to get back into it. We've seen a change with our sports minister, the Honorable Kenson Casimir, with even our national sports decentralizing, having it in Soufriere this year. And you saw on self support there was no space. So I think we're heading there. We're heading
Right.
there. We're getting back there. So I just want to shout out all our federations and for them to keep up the good work.
Definitely, definitely. Basketball is one of the sports on Ireland. Of course, we love our football, we love our cricket. The basketball, of course, it's something that brings out a lot of passion. Not only a lot of people playing it, although, like you said, the, after our competitive age, generations kind of died out and younger ones came in, it kind of became a lot more technology. A lot of the guys wanted to do
Mhm.
stuff on the computer and everything, but it's nice to hear that it's kind of coming back into it. And of course, with direction and the of Les mentioned and Velica and all the guys who are involved in the federation, it's like nice to see that basketball is coming back competitively. But I've seen lots of the clips of all of the tournaments and everything. KFC
Yeah.
tournament, I think that finished.
Yes. Yeah.
And shout out to I'd say Kirby Sydney, who's one of the managers at
Sports St.
Sammy
Lucia ain't got a stadium.
Sports
Yeah.
Sport, yeah, and he hosts the events there at the indoor arena, which is really good. But okay, so what we do, we hear of course the song basketball, but we all love a Boston Celtics, and I want to kind of go a little more into that. So one of the things I wanted to ask firstly, in terms of the Celtics and this season, 2023 season, we had a little bit background there. He was going to be like, what is this guy trying to do? As his team at the back, the core players
Represent.
representing. That's it. That's it. They had a
Wow.
they had a really lovely season last year. Getting to the NBA Finals, they came up a bit short against it, said, or like people know, and I think most people because of the success last year, it's kind of predestined back to the finals. Um, Seeing, of course, the turmoil that happened in the offseason, Udoka being relieved of his duties, some infraction in the organization, and a new coach coming in, Joe Mazzulla taking over the reins as a rookie coach, and he's guided the team to a really good position. They were first for most of the year, and the Bucks took over, and the Sixers started to come up. What have you seen, or you have you liked or disliked about the team this year? And that kind of gets into what your answers are.
Well, first off, I would say that I was not one of those who had this expectation
Mhm.
that they would just automatically make it to the final this year.
Right.
And that's primarily due to the inconsistencies I saw from them last year, especially with the two-star players, Jaylen Brown and Tatum. I'll tell you personally, I prefer Brown to Tatum.
Okay.
I always prefer the hard-nosed the more
Player.
physical players, but last year was, boy, I'll tell you, it was almost like a fantasy, if I want to use that term, because considering the way they started the 2021-2022 season, again, the inconsistencies and it almost appeared as the Jays played okay, your turn, my turn. And it was spoken about in the media a lot up until that. And after the All-Star break, you see that turnaround. I was like, whoa, I'm encouraged. And the final surprised me. I actually expected us, and I said I used the term us.
Us, yes,
I
yes,
expected us to beat Golden State.
Right.
I did really. I based on the physicality and the defense that we played, and you saw with Marcus Smart and Rob Williams and their defense in particular, and the Jays just stepping up a notch on their offense, but then the inconsistency was still there. And I'll tell you that it was Jaylen Brown. I found that he had the propensity to drive in without a plan. So he'd be trying to penetrate and he'd get caught. Then they'd send 2-3 defenders at him in the zone and he doesn't know what to do. It's either a bad pass resulting in a steal, a deflection or something, or, a block. You saw less of that this year.
Right.
This season, you saw less of that this season. And I think we would have won more had Rob Williams been in there. But I'm happy that it created an opportunity for people like Derek White and Brogdon. Thank my boy, 6th man of the year. It created the opportunity for him to get more playing time and for the coach and the coaching staff to actually see them live up to that potential and understand and look for creative ways to use them. Now, Joe Mazzulla, boy, hats off to him. That after the tumultuous start to that season, I was one of those who was a bit pessimistic about how the season would play out. But then after a while, you understand where these guys, he didn't just get into coaching. You understand?
Yep.
When you learn under people like the great Greg Popovich, you get a sense of the game that is beyond just the average level. So then I started seeing a lot of it, a lot of the strategy and everything. At the end of the day, the coaching is great, but then the players need to step up, and there are a lot of weaknesses that they need to work on, and that's why I'm a bit apprehensive about although I still think, and part of it may be the bias, like you said, with that being my team, but I still have apprehensions about how far they will go in the playoffs, and my bracket, as we may see later, will kind of point to that.
Got you. And no, I think that's fair because I remember, those who remember when I started this humble little YouTube channel, I was on my own just trying to, and I've been doing analysis for them for the last 3 seasons, and one of the things that I said was, it's great that the Celtics got to that point, but I thought they had just not faced someone like Golden State throughout the season as much enough, for them to have gotten an understanding of how to play against it like that. But they needed to cut down on their turnovers. Turnovers was one of the for the postseason last year, and a team playing against a team like that who takes advantage of turnovers with quick transition as they and everything. And you mentioned, of course, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum having that little bit of your turn, my turn sort of going on. And Jaylen Brown, of course, being a little more. And there were sometimes you saw Jaylen Brown save the team when Jason Tatum wasn't able to get it going and that sort of stuff. And yeah, it's really good to see, they've kind of continued that momentum from last season and been strong going in. But like you said, I have certain apprehensions about the team, especially their love for 3-point shooting it seems this year. Last season you saw a little more, like you said, Brown kind of getting into the zone, Tatum slashing a lot more, but now it seems like they're kind of relying a lot on 3-point shots. I think looking at the stats, they're taking a lot more threes this year. Being the second,
they're in the top. They're in the top. Yeah, they're among the top. 5 or so, yeah?
Second in 3-point attempts and
Yeah.
second in 3-point makes this year compared to eighth in attempts and ninth in makes last season, shooting at about 36-37%. So they're shooting at a good rate, and I think what they're thinking because of the success last season using the three ball, and I think Joe Mazzulla hasn't really reined them in where that's concerned. And he's telling them, go ahead, do that in part of the arsenal, which you should in this day and age.
But that's a gamble because you're going to face a team that has wing defenders who can defend at that 3-point that three ball.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
with bigger wings and bigger guards. And what are you going to do?
And what
Al Horford, you can't depend on bringing that ball in. JT's you're going to try to draw fouls. I'm sorry, and it's not going to work in your favor all the time. You need to leave that three alone. You have people like Al Horford who cannot play a full NBA game.
Mm-hmm.
We have to face a fact. He's a veteran. He's old. He's good in the interior. But some guys are going to box him out. You're going to be shooting that three. You're going to miss. You're going to have an off night. Mm-hmm. It's inevitable. You will have an off night, and we depend too much on that three. But speaking of that three, what I did love about this year as relates to Marcus Smart, he was for the games that he's played. He was very smart this year. He shot a lot less threes, and this was my issue because he was very erratic in his playing. He'd want to shoot threes and want to take over the game, and he's a lot smarter this year. He's been passing at a higher level, and his IQ has been showing.
That's it. Yeah, the team has improved from 14 to 7 in assists, and of course that's a function of having someone being Malcolm Brogdon. Of course, Marcus Smart being on in the season to rely on a lot more. But yeah, that's really cool what you're saying, and I think it's good to see. And get a lot of guys who are really passionate about the team that kind of tend to have blinders on when it comes to certain seeds and all that. Kind of recognize where a lot of what I kind of realized for this year.
My journalistic training.
Journalistic training.
Objective.
That's right. You kind of have to call it as it is sometimes. And I think with the Celtics, they definitely have opportunity to go for this. They're very talented. They're well coached as it's supposed to be, and they have top tier talent. Brandon, of course, stars this year. The injuries and the in and out of the lineups, I think affected them. But they're still right up there in defense. They're third in defensive rating this year. So it's still not a team to mess around with on the other end. Kind of get to where they need to get to. So I think you kind of addressed some of the questions that I had in terms of what you think might be confident in some of your worries. What I want to kind of go into there was something that you mentioned about kind of preparing Jaylen Brown, Tatum, and of course the other two stars. Many people have kind of put them against, especially last year when the rumors about actually doing things around. And I think I can't remember at what point it was, but I think it was at the turn of the calendar 2022.
Yeah.
January, team just started to kick in.
Whether they should trade them, trade or not, get rid of them.
Yeah. So they started to kick in at that point. They've kind of gone in. Why? To kind of come back to that point, why do you prefer Jaylen Brown over Jason Tatum? I would say I've kind of leaned with Tatum a little more. I think, like we said, we had this opening segment. You kind of go to players that you relate to, and you mentioned your relatability to Larry. I'm going to continue harping on. But for me, I think for Jason Tatum, his finesse play, he kind of comes in unassuming. He has that finesse way about it, but when he can, so he has a versatility to be able to and do other things with the basketball and come in when he needs to. So I've always kind of leaned towards Tatum, but I think a lot of people have said that Jaylen Brown definitely his hard-nosed play and everything and all of that. But is there a little more than that? Is it just about finesse versus physicality?
Uh,
Or,
it's interesting that you say that because when Braun and Melo came into the league, and I think it's a well-known fact that I'm not a LeBron fan, but then it's funny enough that I was never a Kobe fan. I got to respect him. I
right,
respect what LeBron has done, but I still would not respect him where I respect Kobe and everything. I
right,
preferred Melo because Melo was more of a finesse player,
right.
but Melo lacked that defensive tenacity and that stuff. When I look at Jalen Brown, I look, listen, I look at this guy's eyes, the little flashes you get, you look at this guy's eyes, you see a focus. You see a focus, you see a drive, you see that he wants to get it done. And maybe that pretty boy, light skin, Bill Jason Tatum, tall. I
That's not
mean,
the reason why I prefer him, bro. I just say
no,
that.
no, no, no. I know, but you look at him and you like you say, he maybe he's unassuming. He's
Yeah,
unassuming. So it at the eye test tells you that he's very skilled. He can play the game. I love him. In fact, my other Celtics jersey, this is actually I can call it now a slash Antoine Walker slash Kemba Walker
Kemba
jersey.
Walker.
They both bought the same number,
Yes,
right?
yes.
But I do have a Tatum jersey. I don't have a Brown jersey as yet, right? I will get Tatum jersey, and I love him. But when I look for the eye test, it's the eye test for me. When I look at Jalen Brown,
Yeah, focus.
He's always going. Although that's not how he was he appeared easily frustrated early on in his career. And when things weren't going, he seemed to have given up. And I think he's being disrespected though by the organization. If what you hear in the media is true, all the talk,
Underrated.
the trade talks, that's enough to break a man's spirit. You don't do that to a guy who is potentially a first team All NBA. You know, you don't do that. I think all those trade talks and the media is not helping. The organization is not helping. Even the way they handled the situation with Ime Udoka,
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
not helping. If it's people from in there leaking that, you're not helping the situation because Jalen Brown will go right now and give you a 30 points a game on any other team.
that's right.
He can, so we need to respect and the Celtics themselves need to think hard about their future and they need to decide now what are they going to do. And my stupid advice, now as an executive, a player, coach, nothing, is that you need to keep that tandem together
Together. Yeah.
with
And I
a
think
good point guard, and a decent enough defensive center.
and I think that's the problem where we are in today's NBA. It's everything. See, I think just players generally, fans, everything is just really quick. Everybody wants everything to happen, really. And once there's a stumbling block, that's it.
Process. The
Let's
process.
the process. Let's blow it up. It's not some level of continuity, chemistry, and going for it. Gone for these guys to actually sometimes you don't get. We talk about it in 2008 Boston Celtics, and they put a team together with Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce and
Yeah.
Allen, and things just happen straight away. That doesn't always happen. That is actually
Yeah.
an aberration process of what it is to be a team and a franchise. But for Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum, I think you're right. It may be a time kind of match. Yes, it appears to seem that Jason Tatum is maybe more of the marketable one. So you kind of putting him more as a face of the franchise. He has a signature Gordon brand, so you get more airtime and everything where that's concerned. But these two guys team will not do well without the both of them. And
Look at Lowry. Look at Lowry and DeRozan. Look
yes,
at CJ
and
and
game
Dame, right? These guys have accomplished more in the
together
little time they've done together than these guys who were highly rated. So highly rated. These guys have accomplished so much more. They've gone to multiple Eastern Conference finals. They've
as
gone to the
young
NBA
guys,
finals as young
rookies,
guys,
second years, yeah.
rookies. Yeah. They've done a lot. Keep them together. Build around them.
Uh,
You had Michael. That's Michael and Scotty, bro. That's Michael and Scotty. You built around them.
and Jason Tatum, what I think Jalen Brown has been in the one more year than him, but
One year.
this is Tatum's sixth season. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking at his stats here. He's moved from 14 points per game as a rookie, 15, 23, 26.4, 26.9,
Now,
now 30.
now 30. Yeah.
So this is a guy who has him every single year. And it's the same thing for Jaylen Brown as well.
Yeah,
I didn't
exactly.
pick up his numbers directly, but to just to highlight how these guys have
Jalen's at
progressed.
26 now. Yeah.
Yes, he's at 26. So these are guys who have just progressed every single year within an organization that has cultivated their skills and their productivity. And we've seen what it is, what they can be by them reaching to the NBA finals last year, and obviously want to see how far they could go and kind of replicate that they have together. Like we said, I think Michael Jordan and those give us a template in what it is to have to go through some of the pain.
Yeah.
You have to kind of go through the Detroit the Pistons, kind
You
of go
had
through
to go
those
through Celtics.
the Celtics. You have to kind of go through these guys for you to kind of understand what it takes to win. It doesn't happen every year for this super team and all of that. So it's good to see that they're hopefully going to keep it together. But I'll actually say
Money is going to be the
underachieve.
issue.
Money is going to be the issue. And if they underachieve this year, all these questions will come back. If they don't make it at least to the East Conference, right? Well, I think everyone is just waiting for them to get to the finals. But if you see they don't get to at least the conference finals and they don't go deep in the playoffs, it will spell problems for them and all these questions about whether
You,
or not they should be traded.
there's only one thing
They'll come back.
that's gonna prevent them from getting to the Eastern Conference Finals,
Right.
and that is Rob Williams' health.
His health. Exactly. I agree with that as well.
Because Joel Embiid is going to be that X factor in there. I'm not even worried about Harden.
Right.
Joel Embiid is going to be that X factor there.
Joel Embiid has played remarkable basketball this season, and he did so last year as well, where he came second to, and he came out, started a bit slow though. This season it kind of felt like I didn't win the last year. What to expect?
Yeah, he's that emotional. He wears his heart on his sleeve.
Yeah. So part of it have a little bit of win, so part of it camera shaking. It's a ring like this all down. But it's the 76ers actually think when we go into the brackets, we can see what I kind of predicted, but that's just me. But I think the 76ers are probably going to be a team that could potentially stand in the Boston Celtics game. And as we talk about concerns we have about the team, I think the 76ers and who I have probably could definitely put the Celtics' hopes of returning to the finals at jeopardy.
I'm more worried about the Sixers than
the Sixers. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we'll do here, we'll just stop right here for this end of this segment, and we kind of come back to the next set of questions that I have for you. Thanks very much again for being available for this.
No problem, my brother. Anything for you. You know that.
That's right. So guys, just stay tuned, and we'll get right back to the next set of questions.
Yes. Welcome back into section 3 of this interview now with Miguel, the mighty Butu Favre, talking about his favorite team, the Boston Celtics. And yeah, like we saw here in the last segment, he spoke about some of the issues that, he thought were really concerning for that Boston Celtics team. And we talked about, of course, the trade rumors between Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Should the team be broken up? He said very much so. He doesn't believe that should happen. Of course, we saw Jaylen Brown get an extension, 5-year extension of $304 million to keep him with the Boston Celtics. We know that Jason Tatum's previous contract is about to come to an end, and he will also be signing very likely a maximum contract extension, which most people think will go towards a $350 million range. So we have two players probably accounting for about $600 million on the roster for the Boston Celtics. That still doesn't top Shohei Ohtani's $700 million contract, but that's another sport and another topic for another day, which we, of course, discussed in the last interview with Ed Odd Even. But this is not what we hear about. We're not here to talk about baseball. But $600 million tied up in two players, superstar, star level players, one superstar, maybe one star level in superstar in Jason Tatum and a star in Jaylen Brown. But they're here to keep the team together with those contracts. And it's going to be really interesting to see what Brad Stevens does to fortify that team around him as the years progress. So in this next section, we speak about the impact of the Boston Celtics losing assistant coach Damon Stoudemire, who of course was recruited by Georgia Tech college team in the NCAA division to be their head coach. And he thought that losing Damon Stoudemire was definitely going to impact the team moving forward as being one of the assistant coaches on Joe Mazzulla's staff. We also touched a little bit about the rumors that there will also, because of the whole Jaylen Brown trade him thing, there was a lot of talk at that time about Kevin Durant joining that team, but of course that didn't happen. He went over to the Phoenix Suns. But you could see the trend. There's been a lot of talk about trying to improve this team, despite them being a very good team. And one of the things that I said to start this season was the Boston Celtics will win the not will. Well, I predicted that they will, or I'm hoping that they will win the championship because I think they have the talent to do so. But I believe, they still need some tweaks, some changes, some improvements to their roster. Just like Miguel mentioned, he believes that they need a defensive center. We got that with Kristaps Porzingis, but I am very concerned about his health history and whether or not he can last the whole season into the playoffs. So far, so good, but we still have a few more games for the rest of the season. And I think there's still some centers out there on the free agent market before the playoff rosters are set that they probably should pick up. DeMarcus Cousins, anyone? I've also always mentioned him. I mentioned Dwight Howard in the previous episode. Hassan Whiteside was another one of those old-time guys. Not old-time, but one of the previous guys who played in the league. I think I heard now he's now retired or retiring, so he's probably out of the running for that. But, there's still guys out there who I think who could help them bench because Al Horford is getting older and Kristaps Porzingis is an injury risk. So let's see what happens if they're going to bring anyone onto their roster. But we move on into section 3, like I said. We speak about, the Kevin Durant trade rumors, what Miguel thought about that, and also him thinking that if the team made certain tweaks, they could actually be on top of the East for the next 3 to 5 years. He strongly believes that the talent of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum is enough to carry this team into the top level of the Eastern Conference for the next 5 years, basically. So let's hear what he has to say. We're moving on into section 3. This section will be cut down a little bit because we started to go into a predictions of the playoffs. So we're going to cut that out because it's not relevant anymore. But hope you enjoy it.
All right, everyone, welcome back to Baseline to Baseline with Alistair Albert. We're here in segment talking about the Boston Celtics and their chances in this NBA season. What he liked and disliked about the team so far. We spoke a little bit about Jaylen Brown and Tatum. What we've seen from them so far and their evolution and progress as they've evolved into all-stars into the team and everything that they bring with to the team with this new coaching staff with Joe Mazzulla and everything. And as I mentioned about coaching staff, I think one of the things that was mentioned earlier on in the season, and I think some of the NBA analysts who kind of really, the ex-players who are NBA analysts now, brought up 1 or 2 times, and I think it's really important to mention, and people, I don't think really take notice of this as much, is coaching staff. We have Damon Stoudemire, who was one of their assistant.
One of my favorite players.
One of your
especially on his Blazers days.
His Blazer days, Mighty Mouse as they used to call him. I think definitely, someone who was diminutive in size as well, but who was absolutely dynamic and explosive with the Blazers, as you mentioned. Them losing him as well, I think, I don't think would really Actually, I should ask the question. I haven't really noticed. Is he still on the team?
He's still assistant coach
until the end of the season.
Until the end of the season, yeah.
Yeah. So, he's one of these guys, who I think as the team moves forward and they lose him, it might affect them moving forward. But
and you can see his playmaking. You can see his playmaking experience and his influence in the way Marcus Smart has improved.
Definitely so. He getting that opportunity. I think it's Georgia Tech. I think go into being the head coach there. But yeah, so we had this lovely chat, at the first two segments talking about them and where we think they are based on this end season. One of the things I kind of want to touch, and I think it's probably hypothetical now and probably totally unrealistic. But permit me here to kind of think a little bit or gaze into what would have been, a whole fantastical situation. Whilst we spoke about Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and of course, should trade Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum, there was a lot of talk about Kevin Durant. Should they have gone to Kevin Durant and brought him in for Jaylen Brown? Would that would have put them over the top straight away? What did you think about that when that talk was going around? Because of course, any team getting Kevin Durant, they're automatically contending. And I think with a team that has the structure and the history that the Celtics have, in bringing in Kevin Durant would have been great for them as well. Do you think that team would have been better or stronger, or is it that they're better as they are right now and they do the right thing by not entertaining that any further?
Kevin Durant was a perfect fit with the Warriors because you had multiple threats. Mm-hmm. The Boston Celtics do have multiple threats, but then they also have a chemistry that is almost unmatched at that level. You can see the Warriors, although the Warriors have declined a bit, and if we speak about that, we will speak about it when we get to the brackets. If you ask me personally, I'm not a believer of those quick build things, although we did well with the Big Three 2008. I like to start from scratch. I'm a hustle and grind kind of guy, and I think it's not broken. It may have a few cracks or whatever, but I think adding KD, it would come at a great cost. We'd have to give up a lot of assets. We'd have to give up a lot of assets because as it stands right now, we have to, and hopefully that we get to keep JB, but then we're looking at two max level players.
Yep.
They're almost super max at a level, 1A, 1B. You understand? Then Marcus Smart has proven himself to be a good facilitator, a playmaker, and he can knock down the shots when he's not all into his head. He can knock on some shots in clutch times.
And was defensive player of the year last year.
Yeah. Rob Williams is going to want some more money, and naturally he's a great defensive asset, and he can get those buckets as well, and offensive rebounds, and and tip-ins. What are we going to sacrifice? We have a beautiful bench. We have one of the most productive benches in the league.
Yep.
With Malcolm Brogdon is easily a starter on any team. On any team. And again, shout out to him getting the 6th Man of the Year award. We're going to have to give up a lot. And I've seen that happen many times with a number of teams, and that would not work.
Right.
That's a quick fix, a plaster on a small saw, and that plaster is not allowing that saw any space to breathe or anything. So it's just going to get worse.
And I think that's what the situation with the Suns have right now, because of course they have a very top-heavy team. They have Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, and agent Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton, who had his little issues with the franchise recently, but still got his max extension coming via offer sheet from Indiana. Mm-hmm. But of course we have a team now that you wonder what's the longevity of them going to be, because they had to give out Cameron Johnson, Mikal Bridges, and other players, other assets to kind of get Kevin Durant over onto that team. And it might be a flash in the pan moment for them where, hopefully, they could year 1, year 2 possibly, but what happens after that? So, when you think
Kyrie
about
situation,
the whole Kyrie situation, well, that's a whole other shit. And I've spoken about it quite a lot at Sportsmax, where Kyrie, just to touch on it really briefly, I think, he's an outstanding player, and I think one of those players, he's brilliant with the basketball. He's entertainment. Stephen likes to say all the time, he's box office. People come in to watch him play and what he could do with the basketball and everything. But he's a little bit of a ball stopper because he needs to get his rhythms through dribbles and get to his sweet spots. and that kind of takes away from the rhythm of his other players. And
Yeah.
but the good thing about him is when he's with other dominant leader guys on a
He
team
produces.
like
He
Kevin
teaches
Durant,
them.
like LeBron, you see what can happen. And I think that's what you see happening with Luka this year, where Luka is a leader in a sense, but he's not that vocal leader that could probably command the respect of Kyrie in the way
Luka
that
needs to mature.
he needs to mature.
Luka needs a few more years of maturity. I'm hoping
Definitely.
that it's sooner rather than later,
Oh,
because I
definitely.
still think he LeBron was like at some point in his career where he complains to the refs too much.
Too much. Way too much, yeah.
Complains too much. And I think the Euro League versus the NBA, you see the difference in physicality. So I tend to understand why he may want to. It's not what he's used to, but I mean, you've been in the league for what 5 years? Come on, it's about time you adapt. You're a
Yeah.
great player. I need to step up on your your defensive ability. You need to step up on your defense, man. And European players are known for that. That is lack of a defensive prowess, but you need to step up. A great player is not only an offensive player.
Exactly. And you see him leaning a lot on his talent and his ability to create shots and make plays and everything. But on the other end of the court, he's an absolute liability. Then you add
Yes.
Kyrie over to that for the Dallas Mavericks, and we saw how they flamed out in the rest of the year, moving from the fifth spot, eliminated, not even making the play-in tournament. But anyway, we digress. That was Kyrie
Yes.
and the Dallas Mavericks where that's concerned. But so
Yeah,
yeah,
but
it was.
like I said, KD would sacrifice too much for KD, and
But
I don't think I prefer for us to go. Listen, as it stands, we can do. Of course, Al Horford's on his way out, but
yeah.
I think that the Celtics, as they are right now, with a few personnel changes, can do another 3, 4, 5 year run at the top of the Eastern Conference. The
Agreed.
guys, the Jays are at their prime.
Agreed.
Which is approaching their prime. Their respective primes.
And I think, yeah, for sure, they definitely need to address Rob Williams because first off, even if he stays in the team, his injury history is it's inconsistent to the point that you don't depend on him. At this playoff run, I'm actually worried for him.
Well, at least he isn't a paper soldier like AD. Like a little finger poke would get AD down to the ground. So at least I'm grateful for that.
That is true. But when he's there, you can see how much he anchors and everything else. Whilst the other guys are capable, having him is definitely a plus. So okay, so that good to get your view on what you thought the KD situation would be. And I think what we'll do right now is get the final bit of about predictions and the brackets and everything.
Hello again, my face again. My face again with this sparkly St. Lucian shirt. Of course, I just want to just remind everyone and welcome everyone to the Baseline to Baseline podcast with Alistair Albert. Of course, I am from St. Lucia, shiny, bright, lovely, vibrant St. Lucia, which is celebrating their 45th independence anniversary this day. So this is why I have, the little medallion chain here with the outline of the St. Lucia here, and of course this lovely shirt which just shows St. Lucian pride. Really ironically as well, I got an email today from Nike saying that this is my anniversary of being a member with Nike. I didn't even realize I did it on February 22nd, 7 years ago. So two things I'm really proud of course, is being St. Lucian and having an unofficial association with Nike, being a member, like anyone could be. But, hey, it's Nike. It is what it is. So we're moving on really quickly into section 4 of this interview. Really short, of course, it's just a close off where Miguel, we thank Miguel for being on the show. But as you could see, moving on from the previous sections, he spoke about his love for the Boston Celtics. And in section 3, which we kind of cut a little short, we kind of went into a prediction mode where we went into the brackets, who we thought would win the championships and everything. And I'll just do a really quick summary. Miguel thought in the Western Conference playoffs that, the Suns would have gotten through to the playoffs, to the finals. He had them beating the Lakers in the Western Conference finals. He correctly predicted the Suns beating the Clippers as they did. He correctly predicted the Nuggets getting through past the Timberwolves, which they did. But he was incorrect in saying that the Suns would have beaten the Denver Nuggets, which I said was not going to happen. On in the East, of course, he had the Celtics reaching all the way to the finals. That didn't happen. Thinking that the Celtics would have won the championship last year. He had the Milwaukee Bucks reaching all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. That didn't happen. They had a very disappointing first round, losing to the Miami Heat. And yeah, the 76ers beating the Nets, etc., etc. So he had quite a few good predictions there, but he was ultimately wrong in the final with the Suns and the Celtics reaching there. And my predictions were basically as what happened in the West. Basically, it's exactly kind of what happened. The Nuggets getting past the Timberwolves, and then beating the Suns. We had the Lakers beating the Grizzlies, then the Warriors in the second round, reaching the Western Conference Finals, with the Nuggets getting through to the finals. I correctly predicted that. Over on the East side, I had the Bucks beating the Miami Heat. I don't think anyone expected the Miami Heat to beat the Bucks as they did, but that was what really busted my bracket last year. Then I had the next big thing that I had was the Celtics, of course, passing the Hawks, the Sixers beating the Nets, and I thought with help of Joel Embiid and James Harden playing, I thought that the Sixers would actually beat the Celtics last year. That didn't happen. They, of course, disappointed. Doc Rivers having another meltdown in a series where they lost. And so that advancement of the Sixers didn't happen. And of course, the Bucks didn't reach the Eastern Conference Finals. So the Bucks going through to the finals on my bracket, that was busted as well. And then I had the Bucks actually winning the championship if they were able to go all the way through. So that didn't happen. We saw what happened with all of the changes of the teams thereafter. The Bucks firing Budenholzer and bringing in Adrian Griffin, who of course hasn't lasted. Doc Rivers is now the coach of the Milwaukee Bucks, but I did correctly predict the Nuggets to make the finals, but I just thought that the Bucks would win. So that's it. So let's just go really quickly off into this ending portion of this interview with Miguel, just, talking about, how fun it was to do this interview with us. And I'm looking forward to hopefully do an update with him at some point in this year, maybe on his show, where we talk more about the Celtics this year, how right we were about a lot of the concerns that we had. And, just a goodbye to Miguel and Jade Mountain for just allowing us to be at the venue remotely, but taking on the lovely backdrop of the Petors, the St. Lucia Petors in the background right there in the sea, as you would have noticed. So let's close off this interview with Miguel.
All right, everyone. Thank you again for coming back to the final segment of the episode here with Miguel Freevrier, like we mentioned, who's been with us all segment, all show long today. Sorry, a little bit of a tongue twister there. Well, you know what? I agree with that, and we also will get there someday where we could have a live sit-in session, a lovely location like this.
So, I love your location. I'm jealous.
Yes, definitely. I just definitely want to say one more time, thank you, Mountain at Anshas staff, Mr. Damien Joseph, Trevor down at Anshas. You have to switch up as well to kind of get that view. You know what I'm saying? Kern, who helped out earlier on, Magda Betskoy, like I said, who kind of took this offer on and allowed me to do this, and everyone else, thank you for hosting Baseline here today. And Miguel, of course, thank you very much for even, we've spoken about wanting to do this for some time, and it was just getting the right moment to try to do this. And thank you for being available. And I know I've eaten a little bit into your time right now, so
no worries. My podcast comes back next month, by the way. So hopefully, closer to the other playoffs, we can one of my sports not segments, one of those focus basically on the NBA playoffs. I'll probably have you here. Let's see how far our brackets got us.
Home and home. It sounds good. I like it.
Man. Why not? Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming on. And of course, this is the end of Baseline to Baseline. Catch me next time where I probably have someone else to have on. But of course, we're going to continue to watch the NBA playoffs, and maybe we might have a catch up with, like we said, maybe on his show, talking about how far we go. All right, thank you very much, man.
Take it easy.
Off script.
Have a good one.
No
goodbye,
problem.
Viewers. Goodbye, listeners, and have a good one. But
that's it.
Go Seas.
That's it. Thank you very much. See you later.
All right, everyone, I'd like to welcome you back to Baseline with Alistair Albert. Of course, I am your host, Alistair Albert. Last few sections here of this interview. Of course, I'd like to thank Miguel Butu Fevrier, Miguel the Mighty Butu Fevrier, for joining me on that interview that we did. Like I said, yes, it was last year, but you could see from the content that was discussed, it is still very pertinent information for what this Boston Celtics team is enduring this year. So now we just want to quickly wrap off this episode by going into our Beatties of the week. Of course, anyone joining and watching the show for the first time, Beatties is a Creole word from St. Lucia, French English dialect, French English mixed language, indigenous language of St. Lucia. And Beatties, as you could see, it's spelled on the top here, is a word that means nonsense, foolishness, ridiculousness. And of course, every week, every time I come in and do a recording, I like to talk on 3 different topics that I think has been absolute nonsense, absolute Beatties. And of course, we're going to go straight off into the first one. So, of course, last week we had the NBA All-Star Weekend, and there was a lot of lamenting about the play of players at the All-Star game. We saw a game that went down, not even to the wire, but just went down with a final score of 211 points to 186. Right? There's just a competitive pride deficit that it appears that the players have, and they're just not playing very competitively. There were a lot of people bashing them. Adam Silver, I think, had tried to speak about, he wanting this game to be a lot more competitive and less, of the leak outs and everything that we've seen from players and guys not playing defense and it just being threes, etc., etc., etc. That didn't happen. The game again was a shambles. We have Stephen A. Smith and all the other analysts on the other platforms and sporting news shows talking about how atrocious the game was. So we don't know what's going to happen next year. Maybe it might improve. Maybe my guys might have some pride. But what I really wanted to mention here as the Beatties element of this was guys just not having pride in how they play and how they appear to the fans right now. We have, loads of different clips that came up of Kobe Bryant talking about, how much he wanted to play a competitive game and he was not going to lose. And you could see clips of him playing full court defense on LeBron James, blocking his shots and everything. That level of tenacity in an all-star game, this seems to have been totally eliminated now, with guys wanting to preserve themselves and everything, which of course we understand why they're not wanting to go too hard. They're trying to feign injury and avoid injury and remain healthy for the postseason stretch. But you want guys to play competitively. And I thought, the showing for 2 years in a row and for some time now that it's been just pride deficient. Guys not just coming out and wanting to play hard. And that was really difficult to see another year where the All-Star Weekend, All-Star game kind of just went down the drain because of the lack of effort it appeared that the players were given on the floor. So that's Beatties number one. Players, that was absolute nonsense from you guys. You guys need to step it up, man. There needs to be some level of pride in playing a game like this, being selected. It's not just about being selected as an all-star and not really caring with the products on the court. You guys need to step up. And that was Beatties from what we saw on last week, Sunday, at the All-Star game. So that's Beatties number one. Number two, I would like to call out the Brooklyn Nets. Their head coach, Jacques Vaughn, was fired during the All-Star break. He, of course, has gone 21-33 this year. The team has not really clicked. There's been quite a few injuries. Ben Simmons has been in and out of the lineup with his back issues. There seems to have been some rumblings about the players being a bit perturbed with Jacques Vaughn wanting to make Ben Simmons the focal point of the offense after being out a lot or whatever it is. So players were not too happy about that, apparently. A lineup that I think features Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Cam Thomas. It's not really a star-filled roster, to be quite honest. The number one player on that team is probably Mikal Bridges, and I consider him maybe a third or fourth option and a contender at best. Though he has shown he's very offensively capable. He was a bit stifled in Phoenix, but it feels like he's not a number one option on a team. But this is a guy who was released with a team that has been injured and a team devoid of superstar talent in any form of way. So the Nets releasing him, they were looking for a scapegoat, I believe, and I think that's really bad on them. This guy had nothing really to work with on this team. Maybe they thought they would be a playing team, and I think maybe that's a fair assessment. The last game they lost by 50, losing to the Boston Celtics, who we spoke about earlier on in the segment, losing by 50, 136 to 136 to 86. The last game just before the All-Star break. And that probably was the final nail in the coffin for Jacque Vaughn. He's a career 129 and 226. So, but if you look at the teams that he's coached, the Orlando Magic when he did some years back, and these Nets teams, the teams that he had where he last year when he was coaching Kevin Durant and James Harden and Kyrie Irving for the little stretches that he did, the team was actually not too bad. They were 43 and 32 for the time that he picked up after Steve Nash was fired. And yeah, so he did as much as he could with a roster with the talent that it had, and that is the same thing this year. So them firing him, what do they expect if they bring in Coach Budenhauser or Mark Jackson or one of these other coaches? They think that one of those guys will be able to make this team a playoff team? Do they really believe that? So Nets, you're on nonsense. That's absolute BTs. Firing Jacque Vaughn without letting him finish the season at least was wrong. He seems to be getting a raw deal every time he's coaching with the types of teams he's been given to coach. And I thought that was nonsense on behalf of the Brooklyn Nets firing Jacque Vaughn. So that's BT's number 2. And BT's number 3, the last and final one I like to bring up here is the King James, LeBron James. Over the All-Star break, there were a few questions thrown at him. I think he did it on when he had some discussions with the guys on NBA on TNT with Shaq, Ernie, and Kenny. And they asked him about, the rest of his basketball career, or he brought it up, I said, where he was thinking about the rest of his career, how long he could do it for, and whether or not he will want a farewell tour, or if he will just kind of just wither away into the distance. And LeBron said on television, captured, I don't know if I want a farewell tour. I'm not really good at taking praise and being, basically being the focus of everything. And maybe I might Tim Duncan it out and, just go off into the sunset after the season. I laughed at this. I absolutely laughed at this. When has LeBron James been anything Tim Duncan like? Right? Look me in my eye. When has LeBron James done anything Tim Duncan like in his career? Never. So that's nonsense, LeBron. Nobody believes you're not going to take the farewell tour, right? And of course, yes, it is something where sometimes people find it hard to kind of go through that sort of adulation, and every time he plays one of these games, 82 games, he's going to be showered with praises at 41 games when he's on the road specifically. The teams, doing tribute videos to him and thanking him for his contribution to the league, etc., etc. We know LeBron wants that. We saw Kobe Bryant do it, and he was a great league, and of course Kobe deserved that when he got it. Tim Duncan, like he articulated, didn't. Tim Duncan retired after the year, didn't want the farewell tour. Paul Pierce alluded to wanting something of the sort, and that didn't happen. He was kind of blasted for that by players and kind of dissed about it. But LeBron James, of course, I believe he actually deserves it. This is a guy who spent 21 years in the NBA, probably playing about another 2 or 3, maybe about 1 or 2 more years before he probably calls it quits. Waiting to see what happens with Bronny James, his son, of course, at USC, joining the NBA, and then he might call it quits. You actually believe LeBron James will just go quietly? Hell no. Never gonna happen. LeBron is definitely gonna enjoy going to every single stadium and getting the applause and some smattering of boos as well, I'm sure. And getting the applause and people calling him the GOAT and all that sort of stuff. So LeBron, stop trying to fool the public into some sort of false modesty. You want the farewell tour. Don't you've thought about it for years, I'm sure. You know, you just on TV and trying to, come across as modest, and you've thought about it and you're not sure. But we all know you want a farewell tour. So nice try, LeBron. Nice try, LeBron. You will deserve it as well. But that is Beatty's number three for me. You're no one believes you're not going to take that farewell tour. So nice try. So that's the Beatties of the week section. So which one do you think deserves, the call out for the week? Is it um, the pride of the NBA? It's the way the players have been playing the last couple of years and not kind of giving the full effort, especially at the All-Star game and the dunk contest, which is a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But the pride deficit in the NBA, the Nets firing coach Jacques Vaughn, and for number two and number three, LBJ, LeBron James not being sure about whether he wants a farewell tour. Nonsense, all three of them. Nonsense. All right. So that is that. And we'll go, of course, again, as usual, into a footnote section. And like I said earlier on, this footnote section is kind of inspired by the whole St. Lucia, independence, and just St. Lucian inspired in some sort of way. So we had, of course, the interview with Miguel Fevrier, like we did. And also, I'm going to bring up this shoe that was supposed to be St. Lucian inspired, but it didn't really come out as much as I want to, and I'm not really sure how it's going to look on camera. But anyway, so this is the sneaker spotlight for the Kyrie one. Now, the lighting, of course, let me see if I could put it a bit closer. The lighting is I've been trying to get the lighting sorted, so it's a bit bright here. So you're probably not going to really notice the color as much, or maybe you can. You could see the blue, yellow, white, and the black and yellow laces here. And of course, this was kind of supposed to be some sort of St. Lucian inspired inspiration for this. This was, of course, done by on Nike, the Nike ID section. It was not the Nike by you. It was not Nike by you yet. But yeah, it was supposed to just be me wanting to do something that was St. Lucian inspired, and the Kyrie one at that time was a shoe that was highly praised. Kyrie becoming, a signature athlete with Nike after having loads of PEs done for him before he got his signature shoe. And the Kyrie one, it was just a lovely performance shoe. A Zoom 4 foot, very responsive. You could see the traction, herringbone traction, wrapping up onto the sides of the shoe. This is someone, we know what his game is like. He's very quick on his foot, lots of twists and turns with the cuts and the finishes at the rim and everything. So Nike, of course, brought the outsole up onto the midsole sort of thing to kind of give him that sort of protection and responsiveness that he'd want with his cuts. Of course, the Kyrie logo that was, really sleek and lovely with his time at Nike. This actually was, like I said, was supposed to be a yellow swoosh, yellow interior, but it came out like, actually, if you see it in person, it looks a little more volt green than yellow. I'm not sure why, the color palettes really changed when it was in production, but this was supposed to be yellow to kind of course, go the yellow of the St. Lucian flag. The blue is not really the same as well, but that was the blue I chose. And the back portion here on the heel counter, this is you could see some of the speckling on here. This is actually glow in the dark. So if I probably give it a little bit of light here, it actually really glows in the dark, but you probably won't be able to see it because of the lighting in the room. But the back portion here glows in the dark yellow as well. And this was a really great shoe. It started off a really great partnership with Nike and Kyrie Irving, and of course we saw what happened last season with him having to leave Nike and them kind of parting ways because of the anti-Semitic thing that went on, him promoting stuff, him not necessarily wanting to apologize for it, based on everyone's accounts. But he just like Paul George, whose line was cut, because of, they decided to halt the line. But because of the issues that were happening with Kyrie, we had the partnership coming to an end. But this shoe really set it off, and his shoe was really popular in the NBA as well, and just across the world. The Kyrie signature line was awesome, and it being on Nike ID was another opportunity for guys and kids and everyone to kind of pick up a shoe that they love and kind of make it their own. So I tried to make it very St. Lucian inspired. Like I said, I have SMC. You probably can't see SMC 9 here. SMC, of course, like Butu had mentioned in our interview, which stands for St. Mary's College. I wore the number 9 during all the teams that I played for basketball. Basketball wise, number 9 has been my jersey number. You can see the number 9 at the back here as well, kind of peeling off a little bit, but I've had these shoes for since 2015 basically. And yeah, you could see a few things here on the outsole. The birth date of his mom, Elizabeth, 13th of August 1967, and his birth date, I'm guessing as well. The Kyrie logo under here, and a little clear window that shows under the logo JBY, which is very important for Kyrie Irving and has been a theme throughout his year. JBY standing for Just Be You. And that's what Kyrie Irving has been throughout his whole career. He's just been him. He's done things his way, and, his shoes, clothing line, what he wears when he walks into the arena, saging the arenas before he plays, everything, he has just been him. And for good or bad, or whether people agree or not, he has it has probably caused a few issues here and there. But he was him. And this shoe probably is going to be one of the best shoes that has been in the Nike catalog for one of their signature athletes. And this is my sneaker spotlight for this footnote in this baseline to baseline episode, the Kyrie 1 Nike ID edition. And of course, all of the general release colorways were awesome as well and really hot. We had even LeBron James wearing one at one point to kind of support Kyrie Irving. So this is the end of another Baseline to Baseline with Al Sabas. I'd like to thank you and thank, of course, Miguel Free for being my guest. Delayed, but of course, like we said, what we were talking about, the Boston Celtics still reigns true and it's still really important. And I'm really happy I was able to kind of bring that forward because it shows the concerns about the Boston Celtics, despite them being a really good team, has stretched for some time. Last season and even before that, even when they were in the finals, which is why we saw them lost as well. 3-point shooting, way too much of that. Needing some defensive presence on the inside. And they don't having much of that this year. Well, they have Kristaps Porzingis, but what is his health going to be, etc., etc. So thank you very much for watching this episode. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow on Instagram. Hope you like the segments and everything that was brought up today. Of course, the Beatties of the week and the footnote, the shoes shown today. And if you like, come back. Let's watch the next episode when it comes out. But thanks for watching and happy Independence anniversary once again to St. Lucia, 45th Independence year for the country. I am from St. Lucia. I am Alistair Albert, and I shall see you next time. Peace.